Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 British TV moments of 2022.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we're looking at the most memorable things to air in the UK over the past year. Let us know in the comments what your favourite telly moment of all time is. Number 10. Nadine Dorries versus teleprompter. Former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries decided to try her hand at television presenting this year. She's already written about a dozen poorly received romance novels, so why not branch out into something else? Well, unfortunately for Dorries, she had an awful lot of trouble with the teleprompter.
As you were, Sunak's stability extends to the cabinet with the big beefsteak and all her...
Rather than power through her mistakes, she also called attention to them, apologising on air and breaking the flow even more.
At home, in the Home Office. Sorry, I've just completely messed up.
It made it even more shocking that she was in charge of TV for a few years, to the extent of infamously trying to sell off Channel 4.
They're in our studio and we've frisked them for a clue. Stick around for Just Stop Oil live.
Number 9. The 14th Doctor. Following the reveal that Ncuti Gatwa would be the next actor to star as the Doctor, everyone was expecting Jodie Whittaker to transform into him when her time came to an end.
That's the only sad thing. I want to know what happens next.
Shockingly to everyone, that wasn't what happened. With Russell T Davies back on board as showrunner, she spectacularly turned into David Tennant instead. Yes, the 10th Doctor is back, now the 14th Doctor, and will remain for the 60th anniversary specials airing in late 2023. It came as a surprise, despite Tennant already revealing he was going to return in some way for the anniversary, and is a surefire way to get old fans back on board after the somewhat controversial Chibnall era.
What? What?
Number 8. Emmerdale Storm.
You can't. You're only this.
The soaps love to put their characters in mortal danger every time a big anniversary rolls around, and 2022 saw Emmerdale hit 50 years on air. With Corrie's tram crash to follow up, they didn't pull any punches, killing off popular characters willy-nilly.
Harriet, you can leave.
The Storm storyline took up a whole week in October, with Harriet and Liv both saying their goodbyes. They each died in absurd, soapy ways too, with Harriet getting stuck under a bike and struck by lightning, and Liv crushed by a caravan. Shockingly, some viewers were still clamouring for more drama from ITV, even after all that. Number 7. Piers Morgan interviews Trump.
He uses the N-word, the nuclear word, all the time. That's a no-no. You're not supposed to do that.
Since he dramatically quit presenting Good Morning Britain, Piers Morgan has returned to television on his own terms, launching the Piers Morgan Uncensored Chat Show in April. His first episode was an interview with former US President Donald Trump, which promised to get the inside scoop on a variety of controversial topics.
So what would you do
And
about
instead of, excuse me, it's
Yeah,
a little complicated.
Oh, sorry.
Morgan is no stranger to sensationalist reporting and whetted the world's appetite by publishing clips of Trump supposedly storming off.
Turn the camera off.
Trump immediately complained that it had been deceptively edited. The whole thing ended up being a cringe fest, with Morgan covering old ground about the Mr. Potato Head non-controversy and bringing up his mortal enemy, Meghan Markle.
I'm not a fan of Meghan.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. And I wasn't right from the beginning. I think poor Harry is being led around by his nose.
Number 6. The Accession Council.
My lords, it is my sad duty to inform you that Her Most Gracious Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, has passed away.
Following the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on September 8th, gears were set in motion for the then Prince Charles to ascend to the throne. This included a bunch of fancy ceremonies that had never been seen on television before, airing for the first time, including the meeting of the Accession Council.
My lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my most sorrowful duty to announce to you the death of my beloved mother, the Queen.
In fairness, most of you probably didn't watch the councillors meet in St James's Palace to declare Prince Charles King Charles III. But that doesn't change that it was a landmark event very few people had ever witnessed before. After all, the council last had to do this in 1952.
The crown of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is solely and rightfully come to the Prince Charles Philip Arthur George.
Number 5. The Aussies don't know Truss. Technically, this was a moment on Australian TV, but it concerned our short-lived Prime Minister Liz Truss arriving at the funeral for Her Majesty.
Who's this?
No, hard to identify, maybe minor royals.
It seemed that our friends down under didn't have a clue who Truss was. To be fair, she'd been in the top job for less than a fortnight, with most of that time occupied with the mourning period and the government in shutdown.
I can't identify them at this point.
We can't spot everyone,
no.
Unfortunately. They look like they could well be local dignitaries. It's hard to see.
But it was still hilarious that Australian presenters didn't know who she was as she arrived for the service, saying she might be a minor royal. She wishes.
I'm just told that was Liz Truss, the new Prime Minister, in the distance that we could see hopping out of that car.
Number 4. Where's the Prime Minister? More from Truss, days before her resignation, and she was slated to face down the opposition in Parliament.
I'd love to ask the Prime Minister herself about it, but given that she's not here, I ask the Leader of the House, is it leadership to sack your Chancellor for doing exactly what he was asked to do?
But she didn't show up, leaving Leader of the House of Commons, Penny Mordaunt, in charge of the lurch, forced to stand there and answer a barrage of questions on live TV about Truss's failing economic policies.
But there is a very genuine reason why the Prime Minister is not here today.
She was asked a dozen times where the Prime Minister was, with MPs saying Truss was too cowardly to show her face and answer their urgent questions.
Well, the Prime Minister is not under a desk, as the Honourable.
Eventually, Truss did show up to Parliament, but still didn't explain what she'd been doing that was more important. Number 3. Matt Hancock Down Under.
Very nice to meet you.
I don't know what to say.
Brits were shocked when sitting MP Matt Hancock signed up with ITV to go on I'm a Celebrity this year. Ostensibly to raise awareness for dyslexia, Hancock decided to leave Parliament while it was in session to go to Australia for a month, outraging his constituents who elected him to represent them, and indeed the Tory party, which removed the whip.
I can only imagine the reaction back home. I can imagine that this hasn't gone down well.
Initially, he came across well, but fellow campmates began to feel he wasn't being honest with them, despite having a good run in the trials.
How would you say you were?
More human than that.
Well, you're a brave man.
Well,
hell yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
The public was baffled by his longevity in the show too, and wanted to know who, exactly, was voting to keep him in. Number 2. Queuegate.
For 5 days, Westminster Hall became the focus of the world as the Queen lay in state.
It's not generally a source of controversy, but this morning has had a few blunders this year. First was the dystopian game of spin to win that saw ITV pay people's energy bills. But far more contentious was the Queuegate scandal.
Like hundreds of accredited broadcasters and journalists, we were given official permission to access the hall.
Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield were accused by the tabloids of jumping the queue to see the Queen's coffin lying in state.
The rules were that we would be quickly escorted around the edges to a platform at the back. In contrast, those paying respects walked along a carpeted area beside the coffin.
This was made even more severe by the fact many A-list celebs, including David Beckham, queued for 13 hours. Holly and Philip later clarified that they did no such thing and were part of a completely separate queue for press as they were filming an item at the time.
None of the broadcasters and journalists there took anyone's place in the queue, and no one filed past the Queen.
Number 1. Eurovision.
If I was an astronaut, I'd be floating in midair.
It's long been assumed that the UK can't win Eurovision, or even do well, because the rest of Europe doesn't like us. But this was massively disproven in 2022. The Eurovision Song Contest returned, this time to Italy. The UK entry was Spaceman by Sam Ryder, and the country marvelled at Ryder soaring all the way to the top of the leaderboard. With the jury votes, we actually won the contest, but following a huge outpouring of international support for Ukraine, Ukrainian rap group Kalush were the ultimate winners, which nobody could say they didn't deserve.
The winner of the Eurovision Song Contest 2022 is Ukraine!
Still, after getting nil points in 2021, nobody expected us to do that well.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.